Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Cathy McGrath, and I'm one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable Channel 17, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. If you are enjoying your NACTV experience, please consider supporting us by either donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or at nactv@wcgwave.ca. And today's issue of the Neepawa Banner and Press is for Friday, January 26, 2024. And on the first page, prepared to be part of the solution. Neepawa hosts ribbon cutting for Licensed Practical Nursing Program by Casper Warren. Neepawa marked a new and well-anticipated chapter of growth this week. On Monday, January 22nd, a host of officials from the town of Neepawa, Assiniboine Community College, ACC, Prairie Mountain Health, and Manitoba's provincial government gathered to celebrate the grand opening of the brand new Neepawa Training Centre. The celebration proper began in what was once the prison area for the RCMP detachment. After 6 months of renovations, the room that was once full of 8-inch cinder blocks and bars was completely transformed, along with the rest of the former RCMP detachment building, to house an ACC-run licensed practical nursing program. The nursing program began its first day on January 8th with an enrollment of 20 students. At the opening, it was noted that a total of 60 people applied. And in the picture, you can see members of the provincial government, Assiniboine Community College, town of Neepawa cut the ribbon at the Neepawa Training Centre on Monday, January 22nd. Left to right, our Advanced Education and Training Minister Renee Cable, ACC President and CEO Mark Friesen, Manitoba Premier Wab Canoe, Town of Neepawa CAO Colleen Sinchishan, Neepawa Mayor Brian Headley, Health Minister Uzoma Asagwara, and Fort Richmond MLA Jennifer Chen. And continuing, when local leaders step up, we have to listen. We are proud to have entered into our first lease for the building with ACC for the training of nurses, said Brian Headley, Mayor of Neepawa. 20 nurses may seem like a small commitment when measured against the bigger picture, but by creating this facility, let it be known that Neepawa is prepared to continue partnerships and be part of the solution. Manitoba Premier Wab Canoe echoed this sentiment, stating, Neepawa is a thriving community, home to young families and global businesses. Our government is committed to working with post-secondary institutions like Assiniboine Community College and amplifying the work President and CEO Mark Friesen has done to connect more rural Manitobans with rewarding careers in healthcare. Our mission is to fix healthcare. Working together, we can achieve that goal by supporting the students here in Neepawa that are starting their journey towards fulfilling careers as future nursing professionals. He added, when local communities lead, when local leaders, whether they are in the municipal, the post-secondary, or the health world, step up from the front lines to bring good ideas, we have to listen. Prairie Mountain Health anticipates that this new facility will play a key role in supporting service delivery, the upcoming Neepawa Health Centre, and, by extension, the health of those in the region. Once this first group of 20 students graduates, the town of Neepawa hopes to offer further training sessions for nurses or other post-secondary health-related education. In pictured top right, following a press conference, Manitoba Premier Wab Canoe left and Neepawa Mayor Brian Headley converse as they prepare to conduct the ribbon-cutting ceremony. And above left, although it might be hard to believe your eyes, this is one of the rooms inside the new Neepawa Training Centre building, which was formerly home to the Neepawa detachment of the RCMP. Above right, the exterior of the Neepawa Training Centre and the new home of a licensed practical nursing program run by Assiniboine Community College. There are currently 20 students going through training here. sale of former fire hall property in Neepawa approved. Highlights from the Neepawa Town Council meeting, January 16, 2024. And pictured, the commercial lot where the old Neepawa Fire Hall used to stand has been approved for sale to the Neepawa Laundromat. The potential sale of the land that was once home to Neepawa's Fire Hall has been given the go-ahead. On Tuesday, January 16th, Town Council approved the sale of property at 417 First Avenue, Old Fire Hall lot, to the owners of the Neepawa Laundromat. If all legal requirements for the deal are met, the sale would be for $100,000. It could also include a split of legal fees for the transaction and would be subject to a development agreement. Administration recommended signing off on the sale, and Council agreed unanimously approving the deal. Speed zone request denied. An appeal from Neepawa to the province related to the portion of the Yellowhead Highway, number 16, has once again been rejected. Back in 2014 and again in 2020, the town asked Manitoba Infrastructure and Transportation, MIT, to consider dropping the speed limit at the High Life corner, located just over 3 kilometers east of the community, from 100 kilometers per hour to 80. The reason for this ask was due to the concerns of heightened traffic during shift changes and increased potential for accidents on the road. MIT has reviewed the request for a second time and has, for the second time, denied Neepawa's appeal for altering the speeds. In its reply to Town Administration and Council, MIT said there were no technical reasons to revise the current 100-click speed limit at this time. However, MIT also added that it would review the situation once again after the new hospital and high school being built east of town were closer to completion. Transfer of ownership. High Life Neepawa will be officially take over ownership of the wastewater treatment facility on their property. Back in 2009, the hog plant and the town of Neepawa had agreed to a joint venture on what was at the time a brand new treatment facility to service the operation of High Life. A combined $13.3 million in government funding was put up for the project, which included Neepawa's contribution of $1.5 million. The rest of the money needed, around $12.2 million, was put up by High Life. As part of that initial deal, High Life was given the option to acquire the town's interest in that facility. If they decided to do so within the first decade of the deal, High Life would have to pay back a portion of the funding that was provided to get the project going. After 10 years, however, any of those funding obligations would have been fulfilled, providing High Life with the ability to exercise its option to full ownership. As we begin the year 2024, High Life is well beyond its required window and has decided to initiate transfer of full ownership to itself. The transfer of beneficial ownership and indemnity was approved by Council and will see full ownership of the treatment plant shifted to R3 Innovations on behalf of High Life. Changes made to admissions at Neepawa Swimming Pool, again by Owen Devereaux. There will be new admission requirements in place at the Neepawa Swimming Pool in 2024. Moving ahead, all individuals that enter the pool area will need to pay for a pass, even if they have no intention of swimming. Previously, if a person indicated they would not be using the pool themselves, i.e. the parent or guardian of a swimmer, they could enter without purchasing a day pass. The reason for the change is because under the regulations created by the Manitoba government, all people who enter the facility are counted towards the pool occupancy limit. Even people who just sit along the side of the pool without using it are counted. In order to allow for more people who wish to swim to be able to access the pool, the town decided to make the change. There is also a new category for children that are 2 years of age and younger. They will be admitted for free with a paid caregiver's admission. As well, there will be no more lap swim and aquafit specific programs, as the number of participants in those activities were too low to warrant continuation of the programs as a specialty. And looking back, pictured 2 trophies, the Estelle Ames and Best 4-H Club, were awarded to Tanis Benson of Arden and Mrs. Mary Newton of the Home Ec Club. Alongside Mary Newton is Club Secretary Colleen Robertson. And that was 1974 4-H trophies presented to area members by Casper Warren. 125 years ago, January 25th, 1899, Members of the rink winning the Grand Challenge Prize at Minnedosa last week were guests of Mr. and Mrs. C.J. Wynn at dinner at the Commercial Hotel last evening. A very pleasant time was spent, and hopes of equal success at Winnipeg were earnestly expressed, as were the felicitations on honors already won. The Grand Challenge Cup, won by Neepawa's Scarlet Runners at the Minnedosa Bonspiel, is on exhibition in B.F. Hartley's barber shop. It is not so massive as many other trophies of a like nature, but it is neat in design and of purest metal. 100 years ago, January 1924. Glencairn, no school. We will have to go where we can get schools for our children. Several prominent citizens of Estevan are being sued for payment of municipal taxes on real estate they bought for speculative purposes and tried to unload on the town. 75 years ago, 1949, the funeral service for Carmen Webster Law, 65, son of Mrs. Law, Neepawa, and the late John Law, was held Monday, January 17th, in the United Church with Reverend W.A. Osborne officiating. Burial was in Riverside Cemetery. Born in Neepawa in 1883, Mr. Law received his education in Neepawa schools and later joined the Merchants Bank here. He worked as a bank clerk in Saskatchewan for a time, and then he accepted employment with the Swift Canadian Company. He was manager of their plant in Regina during the years 1921 and 1922. Funeral services were held for Adam Thompson in Eden United Church, January 24th. Born in Galt, Ontario, June 1871, he came to Manitoba in the late summer of 1879, settling with his parents in the Dumfries district. Later, he purchased a half section 3 miles west of Arden, where he resided until 6 years ago when he moved to Eden. In April 1899, he married Charlotte Jane Mackenzie. She was a forester for over 50 years, being a charter member of the Court of Ardenview, number 3732. All patients in Manitoba's sanitaria who might be benefited by the new drug streptomycin will receive a free charge as a result of a grant of money under the new National Health Program, the Minister of National Health and Welfare, Honorable Paul Martin, said Monday. 50 years ago, January 1974, 2 trophies were presented at the annual banquet of the Chamber of Commerce in the Neepawa Legion Hall on January 18th. The winner of the Stell Ames Trophy for the best 4-H secretary in the district was Tanis Benson of Arden. Norman Hempstead, Neepawa agricultural representative, made the presentations. Mrs. Mary Newton and the Neepawa Home Ec Club won the trophy for the best 4-H club in the district. 20 years ago, 2004, a province-wide smoking ban to be implemented later this year is expected to drain millions of dollars from lottery profits. Brandon and Winnipeg already have bylaws in place prohibiting smoking in public places. Hotel and restaurant owners in both cities claim they've lost revenue because of the ban. A notion of motion was brought forward at the last meeting of the Turtle River School Division Board of Trustees regarding the closure of Amaranth School. The division wants to close the school because it requires extensive improvements at a time when enrollment is steadily dropping. Turn the page. And Home Buddies with Rita Friesen. Finishing up projects. It's not unusual for jigsaw puzzles to be part of a gift exchange at Christmas. The most common ones I have received have been 1,000-piece interlocking farming scenes or cottagey scenes, and I have enjoyed them all. Vast skies, fall foliage, expansive sand or snow. I do not enjoy the circular or shaped puzzles. I am a straight line thinker. Once again, I was gifted with puzzles. One was a set of 3 Van Gogh paintings, Starry Night, Sunflowers, and Irises. The kicker here is that the finished work measures 10 by 15 centimeters, and it takes 150 pieces to complete the puzzle. I'm talking tiny pieces, and with that scale, you were out of one color before you were properly in it. I have no idea why I left the irises for the last. It is by far the most challenging. The upside is that all the pieces fit comfortably on an 8 by 11 paper, which fits, with space to spare, in the smaller cookie sheet. I sit there in my recliner, feet up, and puzzle on the go. Getting more difficult for these old fingers to select and place such minuscule pieces, never mind eye strain. It was a wonderful creative gift from my daughter-in-law. The other gift wasn't so much a puzzle as a project. Do you know what all Lego makes these days? It's not all spaceships and pirate gear. Housing projects or working models, if you name it. One can construct a golden retriever, a dachshund, almost any animal of choice, and bouquets of flowers. I received the wildflower bouquet, 17 stems, 3 fern, 2 Queen Anne's lace, 2 Welsh poppy, 2 cornflowers, 2 lavender, 2 lupins, a larkspur, and 2 Gabera daisies, 939 pieces. Thankfully, the flowers were grouped in packages of 2 or 3, so I never needed to go through the 939 pieces to find the one I needed. I have years, decades of Lego experience, so I was able to follow the pictorial instructions quite well. Only had to disassemble one stem. Not bad for old hands and eyes. It was a wonderfully creative gift from a cherished young man. I admit that as I was unwrapping these gifts, I was somewhat taken aback. I'm not an avid gift giver and usually avoid gifting at all. For so much thought to be put into a gift for me was humbling. I love Van Gogh's work, and I love wildflowers. As I unwrapped the Lego, the youngest generation, not yet teens, were awed that an old lady received Lego and impressed that the old lady was thrilled with the gift. That was certainly a part of the joy of the day. So, 2 projects completed. They have been wonderfully small tactics for so many other projects. I thoughtlessly ran my finger along the edge of the pattern on the kitchen cabinets, and I would have seriously failed a white glove inspection. I have great plans to recreate more quilts before spring, so I see the clock ticking. Oh, and now someone shared another regular jigsaw puzzle with me. Puppies. And the Beautiful Plains Museum history. They've submitted a picture of the old Neepawa curling rink. This facility is quite different in style compared to the curling rink Neepawa now has. It is believed that it was built on the south side of Davidson, around where the empty lot is west of the Yellowhead Manor. There was no date with the photo, but the imagery harkens back to the early days of the sport. And there's also a letter from Jody Byram, our Agassiz MLA, complimenting us and congratulating us on the new training center and what it means for the community and the province. And out of Helen's kitchen, she has 4 recipes for grapefruit and a little bit of information on grapefruit. The grapefruit probably got its name because it grows in clusters like grapes. When it comes to citrus fruit, grapefruit seems to play second fiddle to its sibling, the orange. The ancestor to today's grapefruit was the pomelo, native to China and India. Grapefruit is an accidental cross between a pomelo and a sweet orange originating in the Barbados. It arrived in the U.S. in 1823, but was not a household favorite until the 1940s. Today, America is the second largest producer and consumer of grapefruit in the world, after China. It's a classic breakfast fruit, but works well in other recipes like green salads, fruit salads, and cocktails. Grapefruit is an excellent source of vitamins A and C, both of which support healthy immune function, and fiber, which is important for healthy digestion. A grapefruit supplies about 10% of your daily potassium needs, along with 8% of your requirements for thiamine and folate. During the 1970s, it was thought that the grapefruit was a natural appetite suppressant, which led to the evolution of the grapefruit diet. The diet involving eating half a grapefruit before every meal. Despite the many benefits, it's important to know that if you are taking certain medications to help regulate cholesterol or blood pressure, antiplatelets or anticoagulants, you should not eat grapefruit or drink grapefruit juice. Your pharmacist will place a warning label on the medications that should avoid using grapefruit with. Grapefruit has the potential to alter the specific medication levels in your bloodstream and increase the risk of side effects. This unique bittersweet flavor of grapefruit will brighten this salad in its segments. There's grapefruit salad, broiled grapefruit, fruit salad or smoothie, and grapefruit pie. Good ideas. Strict penalties for careless grease disposal in Neepawa propose. Fines up to $1,000 considered for improper water sewer disposal by Owen Devereaux. Ongoing problems with improper disposal into our sewer and drainage systems has forced the town of Neepawa to threaten massive potential fines for those caught destroying the infrastructure. For well over a year, council administration has been warning people not to pour items such as grease down the drain. Grease, along with cooking oils, residue, and fats, can form a hardened mass in a sewer pipe, which over time blocks sewage. flow. There have been several examples of this problem popping up locally over the last few years, creating extra work and cost in the community. Most disturbing are confirmed cases in new developments, such as, for example, the former CN property, where water and sewer are less than 2 years old. During a town council meeting on January 16th, Manager of Operations Denise Cathy said that they have tried to be nice about the request, but appears to be falling on deaf ears. The next step may have to be much harder. Damaging infrastructure. The issue is surfacing again, and we're seeing a major problem with grease disposal. As of Tuesday, January 16th, we were out doing maintenance on a location that was completely plugged. An issue like this affects your neighbors down the street, and it causes a lot of damage, says Cathy. We will have to start discussing some fines or something, whether those fines are 500 or 1,000. We need something. We'll have to create a firmer process because this is damaging infrastructure. Cathy also noticed that the town has been forced to invest in the upcoming budget in a $600,000 vehicle that would be able to rapidly respond to these types of emergencies. Harsher response needed. Councillor Murray Parrott asked if there were a means available to do a video scope of a home's sewer and drainage into the main lines to pinpoint who is creating the issue. Cathy responded with an example of what the town could do. We'll say that this street, for example, is the suspected street. We may be issuing $1,000 fines to each home. Your appeal process would be to allow us to go in there, into your personal sewer line going into the main. If 3 of the 4 houses are clear with no remnants of grease plugging, your $1,000 fine is null and void. Cathy concluded that we have reached the point where this type of harsher response is needed, as multiple requests over the years appear to be unheard. He has asked Council to take these suggestions under advisement. Residents are once again strongly advised not to pour grease, cooking oil, or other types of that residue down the sink or in the toilet, and do not rinse grease down the sink. Local store owner bids farewell to dream gig. Inikamak sells It's Time to Lisa Adams store to transition to the mill lifestyle by Casper Warren. Pictured are Inikamak and Lisa Adams in what will soon be the mill lifestyle, formerly It's Time. While the town of Neepawa says farewell to one business, it will be waving hello to another. Inikamak, owner of It's Time Fashion and Gifts at 263 Hamilton, officially closed up shop recently. Filling that space is the up-and-coming The Mill Lifestyle, owned by Lisa Adams. Since it's Lisa, it feels really good to pass the torch to someone new. It's been like a dream, said Inika. We kind of speak the same language. Mac added, thank you for all the support from the community this past 18 years. It's kind of a dream gig to have. Nobody's ever grumpy when they come in clothes shopping, and you get to know all these people. It's a pretty good gig. The former It's Time building has a long history in the Neepawa community and has served as a clothing store for the past 50 years. Starting with Myra Bennett as Myra's Men's and Ladies, following Bennett, Mac has owned and operated It's Time since January of 2006, first as a partnership with her sister-in-law, then as a sole proprietor after her sister moved to Alberta in June the same year. The business included a promotional aspect, which was later sold and ran independently as Promo Time. With this history moving on to be carried on by someone new, Mac now looks forward to spending more time with her kids and grandson, enjoying the lake house up at Pelican Lake, visits to Neepawa, and more adventurous travel. In fact, as this paper goes to print, Mac will be soaking up the sun in the Dominican Republic. However, there's one place in particular that's on her bucket list. The one I'm really excited about is a 2-month hike in Portugal, Mac enthused. As for Adams, she's eager to keep the local fashion history going at the mill while continuing her work as a real estate agent. It feels really good, actually, to continue the history here, said Adams. There'll be lots of fun, and we've had lots of support. It's going to be a pretty happy place. Adams added, Inika has left me a great foundation, too. Adams explained further that she was the realtor for Mac's building as she sought a seller, and although it wasn't originally in the plan, eventually decided to purchase the space herself, run the shop, and move into the upstairs living space. I had a store previously, around 2007, 2009, and I really loved the retail business. I've done customer service my whole life, and I think I have a pretty good style, so I approached Enica and we just kind of went with it. Adams enthused. It's a great location and I'm super excited. There's lots of movement downtown and it's so nice to see people. The mill is going to continue carrying brands that patrons were familiar with at its time, while slowly sprinkling her own style into it as well. But that's not all. Adams currently planning to gradually expand upon its stock and services. My end goal would be, hopefully, to make it a gathering spot, said Adams. Some of the ideas Adams has for the gradual expansions include coffee, books, sustainable, environmentally aware products, services, home decor, and bringing in more local Canadian artists and wares. The Mill Lifestyle's opening date is currently being planned for April. In the meantime, work continues at those finishing touches, such as acquiring the new signage, continues. Gladstone Market Report by Tyler Slowinski. Quite a roller coaster when it comes to the weather lately. If it isn't the cold and the wind, it's the snow or plus temperatures in January. Warmer weather in January definitely shortens the winter and makes the feed pile last a bit longer. We were definitely back in the swing of things this week. We sold 1,290 cattle through the ring in Gladstone on January 23rd. The market saw a variety of cattle, and there still seems to be a fair amount of first-cut cattle stringing into town for the time being. The market was quite active and positive today, getting back to where it was prior to the pressure of the fall run. Cows and bulls traded with plenty of strength from 117 to 133, with consistent averages. Bulls traded with more power ranging between 145 and 160. All classes of cattle sold well. Plainer type cattle are still being discounted. Some market highlights from today's sale: tan steers weighed 520, brought 418. Mixed steers weighed 650 and brought 356. Black-hided steers weighed 787 and traded for 335. And a big set of 1053-pound local short kept steers brought 282 per pound. Heifers, black heifers, weighed 540 and traded for 356. Charolais heifers weighed 636 and brought 323. Crossbred heifers weighed 718 and brought 303.50. And a fancy set of big black-hided heifers that weighed 910 and they fetched 266. If you have cattle to market, don't hesitate to give one of our professional sales team a call. We want your marketing experience to be a success. Arden Curling Club hosts 2024 Men's Bonspiel. Pictured at the top, the Arden Curling Club had its annual Men's Bond Field from January 5th to 7th. This year's winner included left to right, skip to lead. Winners of the Delmar Commodities first event: James Paramore, Wally Paramore, Jason Dirksen, and Jesse Dirksen, won against Kyle Seversko in the final event. In the middle picture, Enns Brothers Equipment's second event winners were Jason McLaren, Mike Nicholson, Neil Turner, and Darren Crisp, won against Randy Martin in event final. And the bottom picture, Rocky Mountain Equipment third event winners were Kevin Paramore, Harvey Hankey, Ron Kalbacki, and Dennis Orton, won against Shannon Plett in event final. A big thank you to the curlers, sponsors, and volunteers that made the event happen. NACI Hockey just keeps on winning by Owen Devereaux. The return to action in 2024, the NAC Tigers, has been pretty much perfect so far. The team has won all of its games in the Westmen High School Hockey League since the end of the Christmas break, including 3 straight over the course of 5 nights. The first of these was a 14-2 shellacking they handed out to the Sandy Bay Badgers on Wednesday, January 17th. It may be easier to list the players that didn't score, but for the sake of those statistical enthusiasts out there, we'll focus on those who packed on the points. Tarek Lapointe led the way with an outstanding 6 points, which distributed out to a trio of goals and 3 assists. Lapointe wasn't the only one wearing black and yellow to nab themselves a hat trick, as Riley Davey also scored 3 times and added 1 assist. In total, a multiple point game was had by 9 NAC players. Goaltender Austin Michaluk collected the win for Neepawa. The next game was much closer, but still ended up with a 6-3 victory for Neepawa over Minnedosa on January 19th. The first period was a great back and forth, with Minnedosa taking the lead on a pair of occasions. Adrian Delgatti and Jaden Trotz each scored for the Chancellors. Neepawa replied back, however, with goals from Lapointe as well as Ryland Bray. In the second, LaPointe scored the lone goal for either team, making it 3-2, Neepawa going into the final period. Ian Foster would then score early in the final frame in the goal that would end up being the game winner for the Tigers. Trotz replied with his 27th of the season for Minnedosa, but Brody Pollock and Daniel Lissaway tapped in some insurance for NACI to make the final a 6-3 score. Goaltender Harley Smith Belle-Isle made 27 stops for the Tigers. This particular game was also special off the ice, as it was the Tigers' 4th annual fundraising game for cancer. In total, excluding this year, the event has been able to raise $9,150, with all proceeds being donated to local causes. Neepawa then closed out its weekend with a 9-0 win over the RGG Raiders. Once again, a mix of players were able to add to the stats on the season. Tarek LaPointe had another hat trick, while Ian Foster led the way with points as he had a pair of goals as well as 2 assists. Kane LaPointe, 2 goals. Lincoln Murray and Ben Richard also scored, while Cohen Kolbacki had 3 assists. Michalek stopped all 23 shots he faced. These results have NACI secure in 4th place in the league standings with a 15-2-0 record and 31 points. The Tigers also have multiple games in hand on all 3 teams as they are currently chasing. As for what's next, the NACI Tigers will head to Minnedosa for a game versus the Chancellors today, January 26th. The next home game is not until Wednesday, January 31st, when the NACI will host Swan Valley. And pictured is the NACI Tigers celebrate after one of their many goals on Friday as they bested Minnedosa by a 6-3 score. The game was their annual Tigers Fight Cancer fundraiser. Minnedosa Bombers win wild one over McGregor by Owen Devereaux. The Minnedosa Bombers battled back from an early offensive surge by the McGregor Wild to pick up a 7-5 win on Saturday, January 20th. The first period of this Tiger Hills Hockey League matchup featured 7 goals, with McGregor picking up 4 of those first 5 for the early lead. The first of the night was scored by McGregor, but was quickly followed by one from Bombers forward Matt Saylor. The Wild then picked up the next 3 in quick succession, making it 4-1, just midway through the first. The Bombers replied back before intermission as Patrick Contreteau and Mark Willis scored to make it a 4-3 score. For the second, McGregor collected a goal off an early period power play just 1 minute and 2 seconds. After that, however, Saylor added his second of the night on an unassisted chance. Just as that goal was being announced over the intercom, the Bombers announcer was interrupted with one more, this time from Contreteau, his second of the game as well. That made it a 5-5 tie going into the third period. For that final 20 minutes, it was the Bombers who were able to take control, as Logan Robinson scored on a power play. It was unassisted. The scoring would close out with just 1 minute and 17 seconds left in the game, as Saylor scored his third of the night on an empty net opportunity. Jason Argue picked up the win in net, stopping 36 shots for the Bombers. This improved Minnedosa's record to 12-2-1 on the season and had them just 3 points back of Killarney, 14-1-0, 28 points, for first place in the East Division. And Gladstone defeated by Minnesota Elkhorn by Owen Devereaux. It's been a rough January in Gladstone as Lakers have lost their 4th straight THHL game. The most recent loss of 2024 was a 6-3 decision on January 20th to the reigning league champions, the Minnesota Elkhorn Seahawks. After an early Seahawk goal, Gladstone answered back midway through with a Kobe Campbell goal just a few minutes later. Minnesota Elkhorn regained the lead on a shot from former Carberry Plainsman Zenon Zimmer. In the second, the combo of Jason and Brad Bowles scored a combined 3 goals for the Seahawks, and Jason collected the extra. Jesse Toth was the lone answer from the Lakers in that 20 minutes, which made the score 5-2 entering the third. The final period featured just 2 goals, one for each team. Campbell scored his second of the night for Gladstone, while Jason Bowles accomplished the hat trick with an empty net goal just before the final horn. With this result, Gladstone has now dropped 4 of 5 games to begin 2024 and are now 2 points back of Neepawa for third place in the Tiger Hills East Division. The Lakers, however, do have 1 game in hand on the schedule in order to make up the difference. The next game for Gladstone will be January 26 in McGregor versus the Wild. As for home game, The Lakers return to Gladstone to take on the Neepawa Farmers on February 2nd. Starting time is 8:30 p.m. And Neepawa Farmers win big over Melita by Owen Devereaux. And pictured, it's a pretty good start to 2024 for the Neepawa Farmers as the club has picked up a pair of wins. The latest was a 10-3 thrashing of the Melita Bisons. Top picture, Miles Wellerton, number 14, dumps the puck into the Melita zone. Bottom picture, Reese Jones make a blocker save off a Melita shot midway through the first period. Jones ended up making 41 saves for the win, his 5th of the year for Neepawa. This victory improved the Farmers' regular season record in the Tiger Hills Hockey League to 8-7-0. A 5-point performance from Zach Hicks led the Neepawa Farmers to an impressive 10-3 victory over the Melita Bisons on Saturday, in January 20th, in the Tiger Hills Hockey League. Hicks picked up a hat trick and added a pair of assists in Neepawa's lopsided win, which improved their regular season records to 8-7-0. Several other Farmers added to the team's impressive outing, including Kyle McDonald, who had 4 points, 2 goals, 2 assists, Tyler Fenning-Cox, Garrett Rempel, Dylan Birch, Ward Susky, and Lance Nugent also scored goals for Neepawa on the night. To go along with his lone goal, Rempel also added 4 assists, as did his teammate Brett Lewandowski. As for how all these numbers played out on the ice, it looked as though it was going to be a much closer game than it turned out to be in the first period, as it was tied at 3-3 going into the intermission. The Farmers secured the win in the second, however, with 5 unanswered goals. They would add 2 more in the final 20 minutes of play to push Neepawa into double digits. The Farmers now have just 3 games remaining on the schedule before the start of playoffs. Over the next few weeks, they'll play a pair on the road in Minneota and Gladstone, before returning to the Yellowhead Center on February 9th for a game versus the Minnesota Bombers. Start time is 8 p.m. And Titans overpowered by Pistons. Shortened bench due to illness injury, a factor in the 5-2 loss by Owen Devereaux. The Neepawa Titans could keep up for only so long, as the Steinbach Pistons eventually overwhelmed them on the way to a 5-2 win on Sunday, January 20th. All things considered, however, the end result could have been much worse for the Titans, as Steinbach hammered away with 59 shots in net in regulation. Goaltender Mason LeBrew put in an amazing effort, though, allowing just 3 of those 5 registered goals. The final 2 goals of the game were actually into an empty net. Another X factor in the game was a short bench for the Titans, as there were 5 prominent players unable to dress due to sickness or injury. Amongst those forced to wear the suit and tie on Sunday included team captain and leading scorer Cody Goodnison. Under those circumstances, Neepawa's early heroics are all the more impressive, as they held on to an early lead. Keenan Skrupa collected his 2nd of the year in the opening period off a turnover in the Steinbach zone to make it 1-0 for the Titans. Then, just 24 seconds into the second, Connor Thompson scored on a breakaway opportunity, giving Neepawa a 2-0 lead. Eventually, however, the Pistons were just too much to hold off, as they replied back with 1 goal in the second. It appeared as though Steinbach had tied the game, and a few minutes later, but the play was blown dead on a delayed penalty. That kept it a 2-1 score going into the third. For the final 20 minutes of regulation, the figuratively floodgates opened on Neepawa, as the next 4 goals were all Steinbach. The latest defeat dropped Neepawa's record in the year to 17-20-1, which puts them in 4th place in the MJHL's West Division with 35 points. The Titans are still 5 points better than Wawasee-Capo in the standings and have a hold of the final playoff spot. The next game for Neepawa will be Friday, January 26, when they host the Portage Terriers. Start time at the Yellowhead is set for 7:30 p.m. And Neepawa Curlers win Zone 7 Mixed Doubles Championship. And pictured, congratulations to Neepawa's Will Quebec and Lena Stadnick, who recently won the MHSAA Zone 7 Mixed Curling Championship. And the Carberry Minor Hockey Recap by Jolene Bulkinas. A busy weekend for our Carberry hockey teams, with the under-13 team en road to provincials. The under-11 braved the cold but lost their Friday night game in Oak Lake. Last week, the under-13 Plainsman team hosted Reston in Game 2 of the series, winning against Reston with a 3-0 shutout for Drayson. This past Friday, the U13 Plaismen traveled to Hartney for a tough game that ended in a 10-6 loss. U13 Plainsmen took on Souris on Saturday in Carberry. It was a close game but ended in an 8-6 loss. The U13 Plainsmen played Verdun in Glenborough, and it was an intense back-and-forth game that ended in a 7-7 tie. The U13 Plainsmen played their final game against Hartney in their provincial playoff best-of-3 series, started in Carberry. This team fought hard throughout the entire game and came away with an 8-5 win. The next game in this series is Game 2 in Hartney on Thursday. The Carberry-Glenborough U15 team had a great game against Verdun this weekend in Glenborough with an 8-2 win. With help from the scoring leaders, with a pair of goals each from Logan McPhail and Eastern Shearer, and a flawless game between the pipes from Kyle and Deal, the Carberry-Glenborough U15 team went on to defeat the league's top team, Souris, on Sunday with a 4-1 win. Carberry U9 traveled to Reston for a doubleheader on Saturday, unfortunately losing both games with close scores. On Sunday, Glenborough traveled to Carberry, winning 13-5. Top scorer of the weekend was Jax Minshall, an awesome goaltending by Crosby Campbell. And also, there's a picture here, the beautiful Plains Museum history on Northern Crown Bank. And in the picture is a submitted picture in relation to the Arden Bank, which was featured in the April 16th, 2021 issue of the Banner and Press. This Northern Crown document is dated 1911 and the Royal Banks to 1932. The Manitoba Historical Society states that the Northern Crown Bank as a whole was established in Winnipeg in 1905. At this time, it was known as the Northern Bank and later renamed the Northern Crown Bank after absorbing the Crown Bank of Toronto in 1908. In 1918, it was then taken over by the Royal Bank of Canada. Vehicle hops the curb in Neepawa. Neepawa's downtown was the scene for a dangerous surprise on January 19th when a vehicle jumped the curb at Giant Tiger, colliding with the building. Following the incident, it appeared that one person may have been receiving care from an EMT, but no specific reports on the severity of the injuries. As responders tended to the scene, traffic was delayed but soon returned to normal and the crashed vehicle removed. A healthcare journey worth taking for the town of Neepawa, submitted. With the announcement of a new regional hospital for the town of Neepawa in December 2021, Neepawa began communicating with the Assiniboine Community College and Prairie Mountain Health regarding the staffing needs of a new hospital and to express interest in hosting community-based training specific to healthcare. In understanding that a training facility was the biggest hurdle to securing any form of training to Neepawa, Council made the decision to renovate the old RCMP detachment building at 239 Mill into a training centre. Renovations were 100% funded by the town of Neepawa with a build it and they will come attitude. Excuse me. Once construction was underway, Assiniboine Community College worked more closely with Neepawa to focus on hosting of a licensed practical nursing program to start in January 2024. As part of their program, offerings under the umbrella of the college. Neepawa will continue to advocate for increased post-secondary training in rural Manitoba and are appreciative of the partnerships that are necessary to actively participate in reducing the impact of various labor shortages, both locally and across the province of Manitoba. Excuse me. And there's a thank you letter from Christine Waddell, who's the wife and co-owner of the Banner and Press with her husband Ken. Chris went through a health issue, a very long health issue, and she's offering her thanks to her family, her friends, the community, her Facebook friends, as well as all the staff in the hospitals that she was in and the care that she received, and also appreciation to the Banner and Press staff because they kept going. Well, Ken and Chris were away taking care of Chris. So thank you and God bless from Chris. And finally, attractions galore at Manitoba Ag Days. Each and every year, there's plenty to see at the annual Manitoba Ag Days exposition. This year was no exception, whether it was an educational station, such as that from Manitoba Weed Supervisors Association, top left, small-scale machinery, top right, with staff from Livingstone, behemoths, great big machines of agriculture like the Seed Master above left, or Bogle above right, or agricultural tools such as the hay hander below. There was sure to be something to pique the interest of all in attendance. And just a reminder that kindergarten registration for the 2024 fall term will be held during regular school hours, HMK, Hazel M. Killington, February 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, all day. JM Young in Eden, February 6th and 7th, mornings only. Brookdale, February 8th, afternoon only. And RJ Waugh, Carberry, February 8th and 9th, 9 to 3:30. To be eligible, your child must be 5 years of age on or before December 31st, 2024. A copy of the birth certificate is required for their file. And for newcomer families, copies of your child's passport and residence documentation are also required. And that is the banner and press for January 26, 2024. I hope you enjoyed.